This is TempleOS 5-minute random code walkthrough, episode 19, and I'm your host, Terry Davis. And let's see where God takes us. Alt B. We are in... Oh, okay, well... This is in my unreleased... This is in my unreleased code. This is let's see, ISO. So ISO 1 is what I call it in my operating system, is ISO 9660. Then there's a couple expanded ISO. I bought a ISO document, and I was going to add these file systems, but I couldn't figure them out. They didn't give me good documentation. I paid like $600 from the ISO organization. Anyway, these are for multi-burn session Blu-ray and DVDs. There's not any code written to speak of. There's not any code written to speak of, so I'll go ahead and talk about ISO 9660. So there's I wrote a file system support. This is for reading ISO 9660. You don't write a CD-ROM. You write it in bulk. You don't do individual files unless you're doing one of these multi-burns. So I did a in the Atom boot directory. There's a this will make an ISO 9660 file. You give it a directory and it will make a ISO 9660 file. So we can talk about ISO 9660. So I call it number 1. So the dates are pretty normal. I guess they have hundredths of a second. So when all the files on the disk have that, the directory entry, it has palindromes, which is really weird. What that means is they include both little endian and big endian. So it has a little endian and a big endian. So for the block numbers, they include both little endian and big endian. And for the size, little endian and big endian. This is the file size. The date is that ISO date. The ISO 9660 has so much crap. It's ridiculous. Sequence number. Anyway, they added a million things. Think when you design something like this, imagine you're making an Internal Revenue Service tax code. Imagine you're making the tax code 1040 EZ, and then you won't be putting in all this shit. You won't be putting all this shit in there that they added so much shit. The first few blocks, there's some special blocks. There's a boot record if it's a bootable CD, primary volume descriptor, supplemental volume descriptor. So most of this stuff, nobody uses most of this stuff. It's a bunch of little text fields. They added, it wasn't enough just to have one, they added a bunch. So the base year is 1900, attribute So what I do is I read the ISO structure and put it into my virtual file system. I put it into my own format, and the routine that does that is the routine that puts it into my own format is read files. Let's see, ISO files find will put it into my own format. We go through an ISO directory, and CD. Here's where I fill one of my virtual file system. I take the little Indian date. I fill in my native entry, size, attributes. The date time I convert to my own 64-bit date time. My date time is year since Christ in the upper 32 bits, and time of day in the lower 32 bits. I use all 32 bits, so it goes down to 49 thousandths of a second. Anyway, so I have to convert their ISO file name. I have to convert their name. My birds are driving me crazy. So here's where it converts their file name. I do not allow all the characters they allow. As I recall, the ISO 9660 has 2-byte UTF international symbols, and there's two sets of directories. There's Big Endian, Little Endian. There's a fast access in the ISO 9660. There's a fast access. They call it a path table or something like that, which is for fast access of. I have to create it. Oops, this is when I create an ISO file. I have to create those boot blocks, like the primary, supplemental blocks, and I have to create the boot. Here's where the boot block is. El Torito or something like that. El Torito. So to make it bootable, you include a boot block. So path table, I think that's what it is. So you have to make those path tables, which is so it has one set of directories for ASCII, one set of directories for UTF. It's got Big Endian and Little Endian, and it has these path tables. It's very, very redundant. Anyway, then it goes through and puts all the files that I made. So I have my own ISO file creation tool. So as a matter of fact, you can use my ISO creation tool to make your own bootable distros. You can make a distribution ISO that's bootable, that's a live CD. So in other words, this is viral. You can this is included on your distribution. You can make your own distributions using the ISO create file ISO. You just have to get it in and out of your virtual machine. That's the tricky part. Anyway, how about that?